Hello and welcome to Where to Begin Your Resume, Building Your Resume from Scratch. This workshop has two objectives. First, to help you understand the purpose of your resume and its key components, and second, to get started with building your resume from scratch. We'll go through a number of different topics, including the purpose of a resume, some resume basics and essential components, a brainstorming activity for your experiences, and how to write effective resume bullets. So what purpose does a resume serve? A resume is a one-page document that includes your current and past experiences, is easy for your reader to understand your unique value, and often this is your first impression that an employer sees. So this is really a tool to market yourself to your future employer, whether it be in an internship position or a full-time job position. This is a living document. So this is something you want to update as you experience new things and as your experiences evolve. So this is something you might want to go back to after each experience to make sure that your responsibilities and your accomplishments are fresh in your mind when you're making these updates. This is also something that might change as your relevant experience changes. Things may come off or stay on or move positions, but that's something that you can always discuss with your college career mentor or a career community advisor once you get to that stage. You don't want your resume to be a laundry list of every experience. You really want to focus on the most relevant and recent experiences to highlight the skills that you would be bringing to that employer. So thinking about some resume basics, you want to think about what do you want your reader to know about you? And also, what does your reader need to know about you? And the way we structure resumes is typically in a few different categories: your header, your education, your experience, and your skills. There are also some other categories that fall under experience section that we can talk to in a few slides. So what do you want the reader to know about you? You want them to know about your education, specifically your Wellesley education, your degree, your major, your minor, but also about any study abroad experiences or cross-registration with MIT, Babson, or Olin, or any other schools that you may have taken classes at. You also might want to think about relevant coursework to highlight, to really showcase your skills and your knowledge to a future employer. And you also want to think about academic awards and honors that you have received through your education. Next is your experience. And experience can be broken down into a number of different categories you can think about, including work, leadership, extracurricular, research, volunteer and service, academic work and projects, and any athletic experience that you might have. You also want to think about your skills. So thinking about any computer skills or software skills, any languages, certifications, or even thinking about specific skills like lab skills or design skills, depending on the type of position that you're looking at. So where do you start your resume? One of the easiest places to start is with your header. Your header includes your name, your email, and your phone number pretty much every time. You might also want to include some professional social media accounts, including LinkedIn, Instagram, or Facebook, if they are something that you would feel confident an employer should look at. There are some different ways to format your header, and this is something that you can see in our resume guidelines and samples resource to choose which one you think might fit your resume. But you can also talk through this with your college career mentor or a career community advisor to see which one is most effective in space saving on your resume. Next, you want to brainstorm your education. Write down your education, including your schools, the dates of attendance, their locations, any relevant courses taken, and any honors and awards. Again, this section might adjust depending on the position that you're applying for, where you might not necessarily write relevant courses for every single position, but for others, it might be very important to highlight those courses you have taken. In this education section, you also want to think about not just Wellesley, but any other schools with cross-registration or study abroad experiences that you've had throughout your time, and make sure to highlight those as well. Next is your work experience. You want to write down your entire work history, every job, every internship, whether it be an internship through Wellesley College, whether it be a part-time job that you had in high school or during your time at Wellesley, or any other experiences that you think could be relevant and important to highlight skills for a future employer. With each of those experiences, you want to write down their dates and location and any accomplishments or results that came from those experiences. Think about contributions, impact, specific skills that you gained from each of those activities, and thinking about truly what set you apart from other potential candidates with similar experiences. What skills did you use that someone else might not have? Or what accomplishments came from your work and your responsibilities? Next, you want to brainstorm your leadership and activities. And this could include a number of different things like extracurricular activities in student orgs on campus, any research experience or volunteer service experience, any additional academic experiences, whether it be in a paid position or thinking about academic course projects that might really highlight the skills that you'd be able to bring to that employer. You also want to think about your athletic experience, if that's something that you have had while you were at Wellesley. Next, you want to brainstorm your skills. So again, thinking about computer and software skills, including Microsoft Office, Google, and any specific industry software that you have experience using. You also want to think about your language skills. And this can always be something that you give some proficiency to. So are you fluent? Are you bilingual? Are you conversational? Or is it a basic knowledge? You also want to think about any certifications that you have achieved throughout your time, either at Wellesley or prior to coming to Wellesley. So what do you do next? Next is really thinking about writing effective resume bullets, because this is what really gives your future employer the context and the content about the skills and your experiences. You want to think of bullet points as accomplishment statements rather than responsibility statements. So asking yourself questions like, what did you accomplish? Why and how did you complete a task? What was your unique contribution and what sets you apart from others? You want to start with a very strong action verb. So rather than using words like assisted, helped, responsible for, supported, or worked with, which are much more general action verbs, think about words such as analyzed, collaborated, coordinated, developed, promoted, researched, streamlined, or tutored, which give a much more specific connotation to the activity that you are performing. We have a list of action verbs that you can access as well in the resume guidelines and samples resource, as well as the How to Write Effective Resume Bullets resource on Wellesley College's career education website. In order to write effective resume bullets, again, we want to get to those accomplishment statements. So you want to start with a strong action verb. And again, that list is available on our online resources. You next want to think about what you did and provide a brief statement about the task, duty, or responsibility. This is also a great opportunity to quantify what you did. So if you have any data or statistics or percentages that showcase the results of your work, this is a good time to include those. But you also want to remember that this piece is not the central focus of your bullet point. Your focus should be on the additional descriptive information and results. Again, going beyond telling what you did and talking more about how and why you did it, what the result or outcome or impact of your work was, and what skills you utilized to accomplish that task. So for example, you could start with a bullet point that says provide after-school tutoring support. There isn't anything incorrect about this bullet point. It is showcasing the responsibility you had. But it also isn't necessarily showing the employer anything more than what the task was. But if you adjust that to tutored approximately 10 students in chemistry and biology on a weekly basis, while constantly assessing each student's needs in order to structure and scaffold instruction appropriately. I now know a lot about this student and what their qualifications are. because not only did they provide after-school tutoring support, they tutored, which is a very strong action verb to get started. I also know the context of the situation. I know that they tutored approximately 10 students in chemistry and biology on a weekly basis. I know the number of students, I know the subjects, and I know the frequency that they were doing this role. But the most important piece to focus on is the end of the bullet point. The piece that says, while constantly assessing each student's needs in order to structure and scaffold instruction appropriately. That now tells me what this student is capable of doing and understands as part of this role. And they have experience doing this in their tutoring position. I now know a lot of skills that this student could provide for my position that I'm hiring for, all within one bullet point. And that's on top of all of the other bullet points that this student would provide for this position and other experiences. So this is a good example to look at as you are figuring out what to include or what language might make sense for your experience. So now's the time to practice. Try the formula method that we just discussed. Find a strong action verb for one of your experiences. Think of a brief statement about what you did, and then include that additional descriptive information and results following. You may either pause the video now to complete this activity or come back to this as you are working on your resume. Creating your primary resume. You want this to be a one-page document. On average, employers look at resumes anywhere between 10 and 20 seconds, which is not a lot of time. So you want to make sure that you are providing the most recent and relevant information and highlighting your most crucial skills for that position in a one page so that you make sure the employer is reading through as much as possible to really showcase you're the best candidate. You want it to be anywhere between 10 and 12 point font, and you want to make sure you have consistent formatting throughout. So if you decide you want to put all of your position titles in italics, you want to make sure you do that throughout your entire resume so that it's really easy visually for someone to look at your resume and see exactly what you were doing in each position because of the italicized consistency. You also want to list your events in reverse chronological order, starting with your most recent experience and going backwards from there. If you're still completing an experience or if it's something that you will be continuing on, you can always list the date to present. So if you started in September of 2015, but you're still doing that job, you would list that experience as September 2015 to present. You also want to make sure that your resume is free of grammatical errors. This is not only telling them about you, but it's also part of a writing sample in addition to your cover letter. So you want to make sure there aren't typos or any inconsistencies in any of your formatting. So again, in thinking about tailoring your primary resume, it won't necessarily have every experience that you've ever completed. You want to focus in on the most relevant and most recent information that will really showcase to the future employer what your skills are and what you would be bringing specifically to that position. This means that some things might get taken off, or that you might have to switch things around depending on what the position description is asking for. You also don't want to include multiple experiences that have a lot of redundancies throughout your skill explanations. If you have two positions that are very similar and highlight the same types of skills and the same types of experiences, you may not necessarily need to include both experiences, but instead can pick maybe the more recent one or the more relevant one for the position that you're looking at. In making the determinations for what is considered relevant and recent and not redundant, this is a good time to meet with your college career mentor or career community advisor to really talk through what the position description is asking for and which experiences could highlight the skills that they're requiring. So what are your next steps? Go through and complete the brainstorming exercise included in this webinar. Brainstorm each of your different sections, your header, your education, your experience, and your skills, so that you have a starting list to work from to decide what is included or not included potentially on your resume. Then you want to create a draft, and this also means working on those bullet points. Get a draft down so that you feel confident enough to at least be able to work from there. Continue attending additional Career Essential Series webinars, including cover letters, negotiations, informational interviewing and networking, and interviewing. These are all going to be helpful as you progress through the job or internship search. You also want to review the Wellesley Career Education website resources in the Navigating the Job Search folder, where you'll find resume resources in addition to other resources, really highlighting that job or internship search. And most importantly, schedule an appointment with your college career mentor or career community advisor in a handshake to talk more on an individual basis about your resume and go through some drafts so that you can create the strongest application possible. We are always available for questions, so you can always find information about how to connect with one of us through Handshake.